This is actually real life crazy, bro, and I just don't get it. How can it be possible to update a game and at the same time mess up so many things that were previously already working beforehand? Or at the very least, they were manageable. So let me put it like this. The Herrera climbing wasn't always amazing. I'm not going to sit here and say to you guys that it was the greatest thing on earth. It wasn't. It had its problems. But after the update, the Herrera climbing is in the worst state it's ever been. It is buggier than ever. At least what before in the past with Herrera climbing, there was some ounce of stability. But now there's basically no viable way to play this thing without falling by phasing through the tree branches or just randomly unlatching for some odd reason. Now, like I said before, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was a perfect thing as it was before the update. But afterwards, I have definitely noticed a change in the negative direction. And on top of that, they also made it so that you can't climb when you run out of stamina. Now, some people will say, but Moonlight, that's a genius move. That seems like a high IQ play to me. But here's the problem. When Herrera is as buggy as it is, where it's phasing through branches and unlatching for the most random of reasons, to not be able to re-engage the latch because you're out of stamina basically means that if you go too high as a Herrera, it's a death sentence. You're basically playing Russian roulette. Herrera, as is, does not have the stability that it needs to have in order for them to make this punishment of not being able to re-engage the latch without stamina. Because now, if you go up, like I said, too high and you run out of stam and you fall because of some nonsense reason, you're just going to hit the ground and die. And the worst part is, guys, is that it's not even just Herrera. The Pterodon 2 has been updated, but for the life of me, I don't see what all the hype is about. It's in a worse state now than it was before the update. And even before the update, I didn't like the flying. I think that sucked because of the stamina changes, but at least people out there were still able to enjoy it. But now I think it's safe to say that even people who are veteran Pterodon mains would tell you that the flying has gotten worse in terms of actual traversal. They're probably thinking, Moonlight, why do you say that? Well, it's simple. Dondi, for whatever reason, has a weird obsession with punishing traversal. I have no idea why, but every single time he makes a change to how creatures are supposed to be moving in terms of their stamina management, he messes it up more than he makes things better. He did this with the Herrera, which is why the Herrera now is in an even worse state than it was beforehand. Now, beforehand, like I said, it wasn't perfect, but at least it was decent as is. With Pterodon, every single time you press sprint, it's basically a punishment. You cannot fly fast without sacrificing pretty much half of your stam almost near immediately. There is no way to actually leverage momentum anymore in the Pterodon flight, because if you notice when you fly, you don't really get that sense of continuation in your movement. So it's basically you press sprint to sacrifice stamina, or you can't move fast at all. You have to move at the regular base speed of your flight. Now you're probably thinking that doesn't seem like a big deal, but what this means is that again, like I said, it punishes traversal. If you fly somewhere, you're going to have to basically sit down and rest for God knows how long to get your stand back up so you could take off again, which means Pterodon players just became free chicken, basically. What would be the fun in being a flyer if you have to constantly keep sitting back down and waiting around hoping that something doesn't come by to kill you before you could take off again? That doesn't make any sense. The whole point of being a flyer is that you want to stay mostly in the air and see the view from up above. Completely defeats the purpose to keep them grounded so consistently. And where, for the love of God, is all the AI? There are so many areas of the map that feel like complete deadlands because of the fact that there is nothing out there to hunt. Now, I understand that this is just a temporary issue, but the problem is that it really just screws over a lot of carnivore playables. And what it does is that it encourages the adult carnivores to hunt pretty much any juvie they can find because they're on the brink of starving. Basically, everybody is going through the dino situation when it comes to food, but instead of just being them that has to go through this, it's now everybody. And I don't know why people are acting like as if the hypsi update is such a godsend. From my perspective, honestly, the entire thing was so lackluster and we could have gone without it. I don't see the point in adding on more moves to a creature like the hypsi, considering that it only takes like, what, 10, 15 minutes to actually grow anyway. From my perspective, it's a cheap gimmick and they wasted time on developing it when they could have been putting more attention into fixing long-standing issues and or correcting systems that could have been better optimized. But overall, I think the update just wasn't what I was expecting in terms of improvements. But maybe you guys see this differently than I do. Let me know in the comments down below how you feel. And as always, guys, I'm Moonlight F and I'm just looking out for you.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.